What's up, man? How you feeling?
I'm doing good. How about yourself? You doing okay?
I'm alright, man. I'm a chef. My name Legend.
Hey, what's up, man?
I got a meal right here. I just wanted to be a blessing to you. Sit
Well, thanks.
down,
Yeah, I'll take it.
share it with you,
You
have a
couldn't spare any change,
conversation.
could you?
I don't have no cash on me,
I
man.
mean, yeah, cause what ended up happening was one of my friends. He's been coming back and forth. He's been trying to help me out. He's at the George. What ended up happening was I came back after I got out the Navy. I ended up going back
Yeah, I
to
see your bag.
yeah my sea bag. My pops had, but that's what he was trying to help me out with. But my pops had dropped it off for me. What ended up happening was I had to get out of the Navy. I stayed in Washington. I was in Ever, Washington for a year.
Uh-huh.
So I ended up coming back out the Navy, coming from Ever,
You
Washington,
from
coming
here?
back to Houston. Yeah, I'm from Houston.
Okay.
So I ended up coming back to Houston, but everything didn't really work out. So I went back to Pittsburgh. I had gone to school in Pittsburgh. So what ends up happening is after I come back from Pittsburgh, everything's getting straightened out. What they end up doing was they ended up having me still staying over at U.S. Vets.
Uh-huh.
The U.S. Vets is on Maine. I, I guess what ended up happening was when I got out the military, it might have got just a little confusing. I don't know how bad it can get confusing, but it just got a
You
little
saying what got
confusing.
confusing?
I mean, as far as me coming out, getting out the military and actually going into the military,
Uh-huh.
they didn't actually give me the right rank. It was a rank that they were trying to give me. Um, uh, excuse me, it was rate. It was a rate that they were trying to give me, and
A
what ends up,
rank
it's
or
a rate. It's a rate.
rate? Okay.
It's a
So
rate.
what does that mean?
It's the job they actually put you in. They
Okay.
put you, so they give you a rate. They put you into that job. They give you a rank, and then they give you, they'll end up after boot camp. They'll end up giving you the job. Like you go through boot camp. Like after the nine to eight, it's an 8 week process. After the 6 weeks, they'll end up talking to like one of the advisors, a job advisor, and they'll put you into the right rate that you have.
So you just got back out here in Houston?
So yeah, so what ends up happening is what ends up happening is they were like after I got out the military, they were like, well look, I don't think them guys really kind of cut your, they didn't really help you out as much as they needed to as far as you being in the military, staying there for 4 years.
Yeah.
So what ends up happening is they said, look, we get you set up over at the U.S. Vets. They had a whole lot of people at the U.S. Vets anyway because they have a whole lot of people over here at the George.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, in between the two, they were like, look, we can fill you in on the spot. So I was like, so after I came back from Pittsburgh, that's what they were working on the whole time. They gave me a spot. So what ends up happening is I ended up getting out there to a spot. But between the George and the U.S. Vets, it still really didn't actually mesh out because I could have just did the whole thing when I was in Pittsburgh.
So how long you been back in Houston?
I think it's been 3 years. I've been 32. I'm 40 now, so 7 years, 8 years.
Oh, okay.
So I've been So I've been out here for about 8 years. I stayed over there at U.S. Vets for 3.
You've been on the street for 8 years?
So I've been on the streets for like 15. So 24, I was 25. So I've been on the street for 15.
You've been on the street for 15. Oh, you
It
was on
hasn't
the.
been that long because I did stay at the U.S. Vets for 3. And I did stay in Pittsburgh for 2. So that's 5 already. I think I stayed with my mom for about 2.5 years.
Okay. And what kind of led to you being on the street?
It was just the fact that I had stayed with my parents after I came back from Pittsburgh. They weren't being negotiable. They were talking about the U.S. Vets the whole time. They were talking about them actually.
Who?
Like, it was like the people that had the military.
Okay.
So
So you went. So okay, let me get because I'm trying to get the storyline, the time frame right. So okay, so you graduate from high school, and then what?
I went to college. I graduated when 18, so I went to college.
You went to
In
college.
Pittsburgh.
Okay.
Yeah,
What did
so
you go to college for?
nursing.
Okay. So you go to college. You graduate from college.
Yeah.
Okay. And after you graduated from college, what did you do?
I came back home for that 1 year. I came back home for 1 year. After I did that 1 year, I go into the Navy.
Okay. You go into the Navy. So you
They
in.
give me
So
the
at
right
this
rate.
time you are 20,
At 22, I was 22 at the time, so I was 23.
and you spent how long in the Navy?
I spent the year, just one, I guess you would call it a year because when I went in January.
Uh-huh.
I got out in January. So
Okay.
excuse me, May, June. I got out in June. I went in June, got out in June.
Okay.
So I ended up getting out. So that was when I turned 24.
Right.
When I come back home, I didn't come back home. Excuse me. I was in Washington for that year. So I stayed in Washington, and from June to about, it wasn't so much of a year, but I did stay until March. I turned 25 when I came back home. So I was homeless from 25 to 40 now. But like I said, it wasn't continuously home. It wasn't a chronic homeless.
Uh-huh.
It was a homelessness between me going back to Pittsburgh and coming back to Houston. From going to Pittsburgh, coming back to Houston, and staying at the George. So between the 33, between being 25 to 30, because when I came back home, I did a year of school.
Uh-huh.
I did about 2 years of school. That's when I had
So
got
you
my.
real educated.
I mean, it wasn't so much that I was educated. It's just that when I had got out the Navy and I stayed in Washington, they were talking about the U.S. Vets the whole time. What they were saying was you could stay in Washington. I knew I could stay in Washington just from the fact that I wanted to stay in the military for the 4 years in Washington. Since I didn't stay the 4 years, I still had an obligation to myself, my friends, and my family to stay in Everett, Washington anyway. So what ends up happening is I stayed for about that, but for about a nine, what is it, from June to March. It's probably like a 9 months time range. I did pick up on my CNA, so I ended up getting my CNA coming back home. So that's what I was supposed to get when I was in the military.
So let me ask you this,
Uh-huh.
because it seemed like you got a lot of credentials. You know, you went to
Uh,
school. What is it that's holding you back from getting off the street?
it's not the fact that anything's holding me back. It's just doesn't anybody know who exactly they're relating to when I because after I had come back from Pittsburgh, I had went up to Pittsburgh and nobody knew who I was relating to because of the fact that when I had get out the military, I had told them guys already. I had told the military had told the I wouldn't say just it was just a whole just think of it as the whole consistently it was just a military influence, a bad influence within a good influence.
Mhm.
So what ends up happening is when I'm in Washington getting my CNA,
Right.
from that time span that I could have stayed for that 4 years, I had ended up going back to Pittsburgh. From Pittsburgh to back to Houston, where I'm homeless now. Nobody had a relationship between me working, between me getting a house, a car, and even an apartment.
So so okay, I got you with the military thing,
Yeah.
right?
Okay.
But you
Okay.
went to school to be a nurse.
Yeah. That was
You
it. That
know,
was in Pittsburgh. Yeah.
why not try to get back into nursing?
I didn't want to be a nurse when I had gone into the military. I was expecting.
So that was never your passion. So why did you go to school for it?
What ended up happening was when I went to school for the 4 years, they were actually obligating the fact that it was a medical circumstance. So like, let's say if you go into the hospital and you play basketball for 4 years and they want to give you another insurance claim because you hurt yourself.
Uh-huh.
After you did the 4 years, even after you did that 4 years,
Right.
they will still help you out. They'll give you that insurance claim even since
Okay, and you're saying they didn't give you that?
They did give me that. So what ends up happening is when I go into the military, I wasn't planning on staying. I wasn't planning on for that 4 years. I was planning on doing a 4-year contract CNA.
Uh-huh.
After the 4-year contract, I could have just picked off any type of job I needed to do that within my knowledge, within my knowledge and with my interests.
But what happened?
So what ends up happening is after I get out the Navy, I had to do the CNA thing myself. So when I come back home, there's really not a passion with anybody when I'm back home. Although I had gone into the military, which they would have gave me a rate that wasn't even within my qualifications. So I'm like. So it's the whole time when I'm in the Navy and I'm sitting here thinking about staying in the military, keeping up with the job that they didn't actually give me my performance and my efforts and just types of things that you want to go to work. When you want to go to work, have a job, get a house, car, an apartment. You want to have these things that are knowledgeable and credible to your success after you get out the military. None of them things are actually qualifying me for anything that I want to do when I get out the military. Now I understand.
So what was it that you wanted to do?
It was just actually it's always a law job. It's always some type of lawyer. I mean, as far as the military is the Navy. So when you go into the military, you have different rates that you can go after either coming from a job source or a college or an institutional source. So you have all these rates that you can choose from. And what's end up happening is, even though you pick let's say you do pick a seaman job, a police officer job. Okay, I know it's law, but you still pick up a officer's job, not actually a lawyer. So what ends up happening is you get out and you can still actually perform under that for the Navy standpoint, they're not going to pick up on a cop performance. They're going to say it's a law performance. Even if you go into medical, even if you go into, what else do they have? Even a cook, it's still some type of law performance that you're under.
Okay.
Pretense. It's some type of law pretense that you're under. So when I had gone into the military, I was like, well, I could do the CNA, finish what they told me in school, and end up pursuing this law type of degree that I wanted to have. But when I get out the military, nobody wanted to respond to anything, so I had to get the CNA I had to get my CNA from what it was when I was in college. So I ended up having to kind of backtrack on what I was doing. So when I was in Washington, nobody would the military Nobody. But the military was the only ones that were trying to perform for me. They were like, well, if the guy is that good at what he's been trying to do in the first place, then what's your problem with him getting the job that he needed to get when he was in the military? Now, after I got out the military, it was the same response.
So if you can go back, would you still go to the military?
I mean,
If you can go back and do it all over again,
I would. I
would you
would.
still go or would you do something different?
I would. Nah, I wouldn't do anything different. I'll go back into the military. But the fact of the matter is, it wasn't so much that it was as an obligation to the military. It was an obligation to myself that I could be in the military. That's what a lot of people.
So you went for like the discipline.
I didn't actually go for the discipline. I went for the advancement,
Mm,
the credibility.
right.
With
Okay.
all my with who I am and what I've been doing in my life. Now everybody else is just sitting in the military. Joe Smo, I'm not gonna call anybody out, but it's just people. There's other people. You go into the military with yourself, yourself, and I.
Uh-huh.
When you get out the military, you come out with everybody that you worked with. It's a big difference when you get out the military because somebody doesn't want to give you the respect that you needed before you had gone to the military in the first place. So what ends up happening is I come out the military and it's just like the U.S. vets, the military is like, is anybody gonna start pushing a brainiac on this? We need to start getting this thing tied together with this guy wanting to live with his life, just what he wants to do.
So what? Because obviously this whole military thing is not working. You know, it's
I mean,
been.
but I would go back into the military. I wouldn't confess with my open heart that I didn't want to be in the military in the first place.
Uh-huh.
But what I'm saying is, I would go back.
No,
into
but
the
that's what I'm
military.
saying. Like moving forward, you
Uh-huh.
know, you said you're 40 now.
Mhm.
You've been out here off and on since you was 25. That's a
Yeah.
long time.
Yeah.
What do you feel like is next? Because obviously, you know, the
it wasn't-
military thing isn't
It wasn't so
clicking.
much. It wasn't so bad that the military wasn't actually trying to give me anything.
No, I'm
I
saying
think
what's
they were-
next right now? Right
I
now
think-
in your
I-
life, where you are today.
I think it was just an obligation to actually perform with the means that I had. So you know, if I had $1 million, I would use that $1 million. If
If you had $1 million right now, what would you use it for?
I remember I was in college. I did 4 years. I went back to Pittsburgh, so I could still pursue some type of entertainment interest. So that's where it's kind of been at the whole time since I.
No, I'm saying right now, if somebody walked up and gave you $1 million, what would you do with it?
That's what I would use it for.
What?
Entertainment interest, actually being a coach, a football coach. I didn't want to go over your head. A coach. I mean, because I did play football for 4 years before I had come back. After I graduated from high school, I played for 4 years.
Okay.
In Pittsburgh. So it wasn't until when I had gone to the military.
You went to the University of Pittsburgh?
I went to Duquesne University. I didn't go to
Okay, you went to Duquesne.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah,
so
I'm familiar.
Okay, so what ends up happening is after I end up coming back home, that interest was still there. So it's something like you could still pursue an interest as a coach, a radio personality, talk show TV. I mean, anything entertainment wise.
Would you invest in anything with that million, or would it kind of just be like?
It's not something where I don't know what I'm saying because that was the whole outcome in the first place, as far as being a lawyer, because it wasn't going to be something where you just a public defender, you're just not a civil servant. Now you're talking about being some type of Johnny Cochran's, you know, a Hollywood paid lawyer, expense lawyer. You know, people on, not to say people on TV, just people that, you know, you get a car lot. You get an insurance business. I mean, these aren't things that aren't typical when you're coming out the military, and it's not something where I told.
So let me ask, do you feel like race played a part in this?
It wasn't so much as a race. It wasn't so much as a race card. I think it was just people not being obligated to their circumstances. Let's say if somebody's a manager at Kroger, he's not going to sell you Randall's bags of food.
Uh-huh.
He's gonna sell you a Kroger bag of food. It's just people just want to live up to the obligation.
Speaking of the food, man, try the food out, man. Let me know how it is.
What is it?
So it's a creamy tomato chicken over rice.
Yeah.
When was the last time you ate something, man?
It was probably yesterday. It was the day before yesterday. When was it? Today's Saturday.
Today is Saturday, yeah.
So yeah, it's been like 2 or 3 days. It's not like people don't come by and drop off food. They come by all the time. It's just the fact that it's just the amount of food they drop off. I guess they don't want to drop off too much and have me getting too fat out here. Yeah, it is good. I mean, what ends up happening is I didn't have a chance to be a coach at that time after I had come back from college.
Hmm.
They had asked me, they had figured out. They said, listen, if you want to stay in Pittsburgh for another year and do some type of intern coach, you could do that right now. But they all were kind of like neglectful for it, just for the fact that it was the military again that was kind of persuading my activities. So what they said was, excuse me, go ahead and get the military out the way, and whatever happens after it, the money should be there.
So look, this is what you know. This is what I got to tell you.
Uh-huh.
You know, and it's gonna sound harsh.
Yeah.
Um, but as a fellow brother, I feel like I got to tell you this.
Yeah.
Um, it's not seeming like this military thing is gonna be your way out.
I don't
You
think.
know,
Yeah.
you have other passions,
Uh-huh.
you have other skills.
Yeah.
I think at this point in your life and where you at, you should use them.
Uh-huh.
You know what I'm saying? You should use them instead of kind of depending on the government and the military to hold up their end of the bargain. You know what I'm saying? They from the beginning of the time they was never gonna help us for real.
What ends up happening is, I think my coach had said the same thing. My coach is one of my coaches that I coached for. He was on Coach Rosado, and what he ends up saying is that government stuff is kind of for the birds, and that military stuff is kind of for the birds. But what they end up doing is they put me under their wing, and they help me out as far as food, clothing. So that's like one of the main reasons why I never really stopped persisting my my chances on trying to be, I guess you would say, famous. But it's I don't think it was so much being black. It was just so much as the government, aside from the military, just didn't have any major actions above them responding to only one particular group of people.
Yeah, but like I said, we not the military thing, because you know everything that we saying, all the questions that I'm asking,
Mm-hmm.
is kind of going right back to the military.
Mm-hmm.
I think we got to kind of try to get away from that, you know, and if it come, it come, but right now, and in this day,
Uh-huh.
um, there are other things that you could possibly, you know, be into that can help you get off the street. You
I
know what I'm
mean,
saying? Like job wise.
but don't forget that they did have me in the U.S. vets, and that's what ended up happening when I was in Pittsburgh. So the guy comes up to me and he says, "What would it be worth for you to work 100 hours and make no money when you can not work and make $100 million, $100?" And when I come back and end up staying over here at the U.S. vets,
How can you not work and make $100?
that was the what do you call it? It's not a riddle. That was the oh, you almost made me forget it. It's not a civil. It's um it was almost kind of like a you know what a haiku is?
Yeah,
It's a three
yeah,
it's a 3 bar
uh-huh.
poem. There's something like just a haiku. That's all I was trying to explain is just how my life not working can still make me money. Not saying that famous people don't work, but what I'm saying is I had put in so much work that me not working was the same as me working. And what ends up happening is the government's kind of like still in a coup with themselves when I come back to the U.S. vets, and it's kind of like, well, if I'm not working, I can still get the $100. Where are you participating in me trying to get this job? Not military aside from the military. So it's kind of like I'm sitting here spinning my tires, trying to look out for myself while he's spinning tires right. The government spinning tires right back on me. So it's kind of like, so whenever I get something from somebody, say yourself,
Uh-huh.
and they give me something like, let's say they'll give me a large pizza. I spend the whole night out here. I spend a whole week out here. I spend a whole month out here, and you see people driving around in their cars. You see people going to the games. You see people having their jerseys on. This is all money that's being expended off my criteria. But yet, I'm down
You
the street.
saying because you served the country?
You can serve the country or be a coach. You can serve. I mean, you can serve the country or
So,
graduate
cause
from college.
why do you say this is all money being spent off of what you did?
Because when I had gone, well, after I had come back out the military and I gone back to Pittsburgh, before I had, and in between that time after I did my 4 years, they were still, everybody was still had their minds all set on you actually being a coach or you actually even performing on an NFL stage. So it's kind of like, so when I had gotten when I had gotten out the military and let's say gone back to Pittsburgh after that year, gone back to Pittsburgh. So after I had gone back to Pittsburgh, um, they were like, so where's all this money going to that we had saved for you, that we had worked on when you had did your 4 years anyway? Um, and nobody had nothing to say as far as the government. The U.S. vets had something to say. They were the whole ones in the first place. When I got out the military, they had said, just go ahead and pick your poison.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Nah.
Yeah, but they had said from the U.S. vets, they had said, well, go ahead and pick your poison. I mean, the guy's not working. So if he's not working and making his $100, can you still make another $100 from not working? The guy's slashing my prices every time. So you still have these people out here a couple of years later, 5 or 10 years later, saying what they did, what they didn't do, saying what they did on like in the present. That's kind of like, well, if you're saying all these people in the present, I mean in the past are doing things in the present, so where's my money gonna come from if I'm sitting out here working
Okay,
or not working?
I want to kind of shift gears.
Go ahead.
Um, how often you out here and like,
Listen,
what do you see the causes of most people being out here?
the most causes I would think is post traumatic stress. Not to be funny,
From
but
what?
I think it's just stress. They're just stressed out just because of the fact that they're 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 not due they're not due they're they're not getting the money that they're not getting the replenishment that they put in for. You had the job. If you have a job, you work the job, and you graduate from that job, or you get an advancement from that job. No telling who else, homeless or otherwise, could be taken from you. With the fact that the government, in my situation, is just pulling strings behind my head.
I'm talking about just normal people, like not you and your situation with the
Uh huh.
military, just
Uh huh.
regular everyday you out here. Um, do you see a lot of people who
That's it.
might be on drugs, who
It's not
might
so.
alcohol?
It's drugs, alcohol. What is it? Fornication. I don't think it's too much fornication. It's just chronic homelessness, to be honest.
But
It's
due
because of the
to what?
is okay if they have a job loss, and then the next week you see two or three, five, six, seven other people saying that they kept their job, and you never known these people before in your life, but they're driving past you, speeding past you, um, because of the fact that they feel that they're righteously right.
Hmm.
Because now you're taking a more essence. You're taking the essence. You're taking the essence from. You're taking the essence from you actually having a job and how do you get a job and you staying with the job. That these people aren't actually responding to what. Listen, you remember I told you my pops dropped off a bag.
Yeah.
Sometimes I don't have to call my pops for him to do that.
So you mean to tell me your father will come out here and drop stuff off to you, but won't help you get off the street?
Uh,
Is
I
that
think you kind of answered your own question on that one. Not to say he wouldn't help me, but if he's drop off, if he can't be in two places at once. He can't drop off a bag and then help me go and get a job.
why can't he?
Since you like what is it mentality wise? Now okay, how about if he got me a job and then had to drop off the bag?
Why? But my question is why he can't do both, or at least give you a place to stay, and then you can go out and do your own work and get the job. Like, did something happen?
What was the question? It was a question.
No, I'm just trying to figure out how you said your father come out and he dropped you a bag.
Now I don't have to call him to do that.
But so my
But who would
question
he
is,
have to call for me to get the job? I mean, he shouldn't have to call 5, 6, 7 people just because somebody wants to honk the horn at me because they think they're right.
but my question is, if he gave you a place to stay, you can go out. It's a million places in Houston
Uh-huh.
that you can go to and try to get a job.
Now get this. When I was in Pittsburgh, the first thing the guy had said,
You trying to get past? Oh, okay.
he's one of my friends from vet, the George. The George said I couldn't stay there, which is obvious. A week later, the George writes another letter, not constitutional wise, writes a letter that says, "Well, why can't he stay here then?" The guy's like, "Nah, it wouldn't make it too much of a difference." My pops know, my pops knowing what he knows. How many people I got to call to help my son get a job when everybody else can just sit on their butt? Which wouldn't make it. It wouldn't make too much of any sense. Just saying. What ends up happening is I do stay at the vets, and my pops had to help me do that. When I didn't need any help with the U.S. vets or the George, I could have just got the job myself because I don't sit on my ass. But with the way things work, and the people tying having strings, pulling strings behind your head, they're just making it longer and longer for me to get a job because I had to correct what they didn't ever do.
Hmm. Oh, so you are actively trying to get a job.
Yeah, I guess you could say it's so much as a job. Yeah.
Okay. What was your name, man? I didn't get your
Demetrius.
name. Okay, Demetrius.
What's up, man?
Legend.
Legend. Okay.
It was nice to meet you,
Nice
man.
to meet you too, man.
You know, and I hope that all work out for you.
Yeah.
And
it should. I appreciate you giving the food.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's no
Yeah, I
problem
mean,
at all,
yeah.
man. Just trying to be a blessing to you.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, no problem, man. Stay safe out here.
I will, man. Same to you, okay?
All right.